Chop, chop. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me because there is a problem with the microphone, but okay, I'll try to be as loud as possible. But just let me know if you cannot hear or you just come over. Yeah, my name is Özgür Gürsoy. I'm working at Imec, Belgium. I don't know if you heard the name of Imec, but okay, before starting, I would like to thank GSA, and I would like to thank specifically Olivera and Christina for inviting me and giving this chance to me to meet you guys here. I mean, frankly speaking, I was not expecting this much of interest, and I'm amazed with the energy you have out there, with all the questions. You guys came over and asked really very good questions, and I'm really excited about this. And I'm seeing now there is a promising future for the electronics and for the microelectronics. What I would like to give you here a little bit summary of what ASIC is, what chip development is from scratch, from the spec requirement up to the production, industrialization, supply chain, and also I will talk about the concept of ASIC. What is ASIC, and what is the differences between ASIC and a standard IC component? But basically, the message I would like to give is that, as you all know, we are in the middle of this chip crisis. There is the capacity issue, and there is a lot of demand from different sectors of the industry. AI is booming, electrical vehicles are booming, and all these devices, all these industries require semiconductors, chips. Basically, in 20 years, the cars that we will be driving is the iPhones with 4 wheels. It's basically it. And 60% of the battery of that vehicle will be used by the chips inside that car. So that is quite interesting topic to be in. And I think you're very lucky in that sense, because at this moment, it's booming, and I believe you will find really, really good opportunities when you graduated. And the last thing that I would like to mention is, before I start my presentation, is that, okay, we all know, I mean, yeah, software is one crucial part of this industry, and there are a lot of talents out there, I can tell you that. But we are suffering in Europe, in the US, for finding good talents for hardware engineers. Hardware engineer meaning the microchip designers, front end, back end, in manufacturing, in package development, in test development, in every step, we are suffering, and we need good engineers. So just keep in mind. Okay. So far, is sound okay? Yes. Okay. Thanks. So, okay, just a couple of slides about Imec. So Imec is located in Belgium, in a town called Leuven. It's 25 kilometers away from Brussels. Leuven is a university town. There is KU Leuven there, Catholic University of Leuven. It's, I think they established the university in 15th century, something like that. And Imec is a kind of a, Imec was born from the university in 1984, doing semiconductor research mainly, having more than 5,000 people from all over the world. I mean, we have 95 different nationalities working at Imec. So it is in Belgium, but it is, I wouldn't call it a Belgium company or an institution. It's a European R&D center, the largest R&D center in Europe, in Belgium. It has, quite advanced in infrastructure. Like, there are 3 clean rooms where we can produce chips, And the wafer you're seeing here coming from Imec, that was produced at Imec. And we are working with companies, we are working with universities, we are working with institutions to give access to all semiconductor technologies to our customers and to our partners and to the universities. Okay, so a little bit more detail on the company. Yeah, this, I don't know if you can see, it's white, but so there is a building here. It's white. So this is actually the clean room. This is the factory that this wafer and the chips and the transistors are produced. It is 300 millimeter or 12-inch CMOS pilot line. And in that building, the investment is 3 billion euros. What Imec is doing for the manufacturing part, I mean, we are doing the whole flow from, again, spec to manufacturing and supply chain. But what, in terms of manufacturing, what Imec is doing, they are developing the semiconductor process platform for the next generation and sell it to Samsung, TSMC, Intel, and then those big guys make it, that platform, industry ready, so that they can design chips there and put in your laptops, in the cars, etc. At the moment, as you might know, the most advanced commercially available technology node is 5 nanometer from TSMC. And here they realized, they really manufactured a CMOS transistor in 1 nanometer. And in 4 or 5 years, you will be hearing about it in commercial applications. This is on the manufacturing side, but also, I mean, we are collaborating with all the universities around Europe, working with 600 and more universities to provide MPW services. I will mention about that. And we are also supporting startups. So every year, at least 1 or 2 startups going to the industry from the umbrella of Imec. And it doesn't have to be Belgium, by the way. I'm talking about the whole Europe. Yeah, enough. Yes, that's just showing the, I would say, campus of Imec. So there are buildings for normal design, etc. But there are 3 factories. This on the right-hand side is the 300 millimeter clean room. Yeah, they are doing these fantastic, lithography stuff, like going down to 1 nanometer resolution. And we have also 2 pilot line foundries working on gallium nitride and indium phosphide for research purposes again. Okay, so as I said, I can tell you that we have 3 main pillars within Imec. One is R&D. I mentioned R&D in manufacturing, R&D in design, R&D in finding different technologies, and on smart cities, smart energy, batteries, you name it. And Imec also welcomes all the universities and students to do their masters and PhDs at Imec in one of those research areas. We also do development. Development means the real ASIC chip development for the real customers. I'm a part of the development, not R&D. So we work with real customers all around the world, and we develop ASICs for them. And also I mentioned there is this venturing, meaning that supporting startups, new companies, new ideas to serve the market. Okay. So here I will talk more about that development side, the ASIC, mainly the ASIC. And before, yeah, probably you all heard about ASIC, right? Application-specific integrated circuit. So you have all type of chips. You have, and I have been hearing from you all talking about Intel, talking about this microchip, this microprocessor. Fine, these are standard ASICs that you can buy off the shelf. You can go to the website, online, order it and use in your application. Fine, but there is also a different side of this world that we call ASIC world, application-specific integrated circuit, which is actually developed for one specific application and for one specific customer. So ASIC can only be used for one customer. I mean, and it has on its benefits because it increases the degree of control of your IP, of your idea, because it's your chip, it's your IP, and it's really fit 100% to your specific application. The story starts like this. Okay, in the market, you have an idea. Let's say an IoT, right? You have sensor, you have an analog front end to, clean up this data coming from the sensor. Then you need some data converters, ADC. Then you need a processor to process that data, the digital data. Then you need to send this data to somewhere else. Wireless, Bluetooth, whatever, USB. So what you can do, you can buy all those components from here and there and put it on a PCB, and then you have a solution, working solution, but this big. Okay, you cannot put it in your little mobile device, or I mean, it's too expensive. And also, let's say you put it in your device, then your competitor get your device, opens it, and sees what's inside. So in order to, if these are the concerns of your application, your idea, then you go for ASIC. You integrate everything in a custom way on a little silicon, piece of silicon. So it's higher integration. It's, of course, lower power, because now we are talking about mobile world. Every milliamps counts. So you need to be very power efficient. And also, yeah, as I said, confidentiality. Okay, so great. Okay, so just give you an example, ASIC versus the standard IC. Maybe it will explain you more. So this guy is our standard IC, right? Okay, he's fine, off the shelf. I mean, you can find anywhere. Well, the outfit, serves the purpose, fine. You can get it. But if you need more elegant solution, then you have it. So this is actually, this is what ASIC is. It's designed to your body. So, okay, well, it's opposite to the standard ICs. ASIC is designed to fit your needs, but of course, there should be some trade-offs, right? We are all engineers, and world is based on trade-offs. So, in order, you can get this from H&M, but you cannot get this from H&M, right? You need to pay some extra money to get it, but no pain, no gain. And this is where we are coming into the picture here. So we need more engineers to do this. Okay. Well, here I am just putting a couple of more details, pros and cons between standard IC and ASIC. I'm not going to the details. It could be boring to you because it's talking about money, etc. But just to give you the idea, time to market. So you have an idea and you want to put your idea in production and you want to put it into the market. So of course, going with the standard ICs is the fastest because it's available. But for ASIC, Anton, I think, mentioned that it will take at least 1 year to develop an ASIC from scratch. So you have to wait for it. Non-recurring expenses, we call this NRE, the money that you pay upfront to develop an ASIC. For standard IC, you just pay it a couple of $10, whatever, you have it. But for ASIC, that engineering cost, that EDA tool cost, that manufacturing cost for this specific IC needs to be paid. by the customer so that we can pay our engineers. But of course, when it is in production, things started to change. The unit cost will be cheaper because it's your own ASIC. Scalability, you can build on top of your ASIC. You can add, remove components. And as I mentioned, the form factor, it's smaller, it's more power efficient, it's more performance efficient, etc., etc. And you have the control of your whole supply chain. Okay. So here, I am talking about the steps of this development, very high level. Yeah, as we all know, it all starts with the front end, right? There's front end, RTL, design, and verification, which is very popular in Serbia, which is good. But what I would like to tell you, beyond that, there is a huge engineering steps are required. Like first backend, you need to generate those layers for the given technology. You need to do DFT. Have you heard about DFT? Good. So design for testability. Without a testable chip, it's nothing. You have to be able to test it. So you have to implement this testability. And there are experts who are just doing DFT for those chips. And there is backend, layout, manufacturing, to just do this baklava thing. And then, yeah, there is dicing, there is packaging, and packaging is, again, today is a hot topic because we are not talking about simple packages like those 8088 processors. Now we are talking about chip size 3D packages where you integrate multiple chips in one package with all the memory, different ICs. Then now we're talking about chiplets. Have you heard about chiplets? Okay, so it's like Lego. So there will be small pieces of functionalities, DSP, AI core, Bluetooth, wireless, name it, and then we will be able to get those like a Lego and build our own solution again in one of these 3D packages. So we need 3D package experts. And then test, okay, during the design, you need to do this DFT, design for testability, implementation, but we need some people to do the tests, software development and test hardware development, and then the supply chain. So you can see it is really, the whole industry needs some brilliant ASIC engineers. Yeah, okay, the same stuff, the advantages of ASIC, etc., etc. Then, yeah, so going back to Imec, how we started, as I said, in '84, it was a little, researchy group that come off from KU Leuven University. And then in '90, the Europractice was established. I don't know if you heard about Europractice. Okay, Europractice is actually the under Imec umbrella a department who is helping universities to access to the semiconductor technology. So you have your thesis, right? You do your master thesis, you do your PhD thesis. There you design a circuit. But you need to produce it, you need to see, you need to measure it if it is working or not. But it's not easy, or it is most of the time impossible to access those foundries. Then in '90, Imec established this Europractice. It's a hub where all the universities are connected to it. And when there is a demand from one university to manufacture one of their students' chips, then Europractice is doing an MPW, multi-project wafer, for the universities, and Europractice can handle the rest. Like if you need packaging, the packaging is done. If you need test development is done. Then the samples would be shipped to those universities. And then in '96, we said, okay, it's working very well. Why don't we do this for the commercial companies? Because it's not just universities, but also the commercial companies would need the MPW, because you cannot pay the whole money of this full wafer. You need to share it with other companies, with other chips. So multi-project wafer is required, and the normal commercial companies would need it. So we opened this Euro practice, not only the universities, but also the rest of the world, the rest of the companies. And in 2007, Imec became VCA of TSMC. VCA stands for Value Chain Aggregator. It's a distributor, value-added reseller. What it does, so, okay, TSMC is the largest foundry in the world. They have 35 to 40,000 customers all around the world, but only 300 of them has direct access to TSMC. They accept, okay, Apple, they accept, all these big guys, Broadcom, Qualcomm, but if you're in university, if you're a small startup, TSMC wouldn't take you as a direct customer. So that's why they have this concept of VCA. They selected 4 or 5 companies, and it's the distributor basically, and Imec is the largest VCA in Europe. So when you need to access TSMC technology from 180 nanometer to 5 nanometer, we have that capability. So all your chips will go through Imec, and then we deal the rest with TSMC to make sure it's manufactured flawlessly. You will get your tested good dies or tested good packages in 3 to 4 months. So that happened in 2007 in Europe. Then in 2017, we also explored North America, etc., etc. So it's growing, and it's a healthy growth, and it is using its DNA of semiconductor research mindset. Yeah, another view of looking at the yeah. So again, there is silicon manufacturing in the core of our business. Without manufacturing the chip, it's okay. You can design and you can maybe write a paper, but okay. We need to see something like this. But around this silicon manufacturing, there are a lot of different dimensions, a lot of different pillars. IP and design services is one of them, and that's why I've been telling you guys we need chip ASIC design engineers more and more. On top of that, we have assembly and packaging. And on top of that, test and qualification. Qualification is also important. Well, when I was in the University of Electronics Engineering, I didn't have any idea about the silicon manufacturing, assembly. All we knew was design. Okay, that's the crucial part, but there is also beyond that one, and qualification is one of them. For automotive, for healthcare, for space, for the different application domains, each solution, each chip requires different set of qualifications. So you need to know all these things so that your product is market ready or sellable. And wrapping all these things is supply chain management. I didn't do anything. I don't know what happened. Huh? Any idea? Left arrow. Because I'm seeing different thing here and there. Yeah. I'm not a software engineer. Neither am I. There you go, thanks. Well, I'm talking about these all sophisticated technologies, but I cannot handle this PowerPoint. Sorry for that. But I'm really an ASIC engineer. I mean, really, seriously. Okay, I'll try again. Yeah. Okay, silicon manufacturing. I will go step by step. As Imec, we are working with TSMC, of course, XFAB, UMC, onsemi, and some, Imec foundries I mentioned for prototyping silicium photonics and gallium nitride. And maybe a couple of words about the technology nodes. This is a TSMC-based technology portfolio. I don't think you could see it because it's very small, but just it starts from 10 micrometer. A hair is 100 micrometer. So it starts 10 micrometer. I think this was early 80s, late 70s. Then it evolved. Now, as I said, the commercially available technology node is 5 nanometer. So this is 10,000 nanometer. From 10,000 nanometer in 30 years, we came to 5 nanometer. And 5 nanometer is 50 angstrom. And the silicon, the distance between the two atoms in silicon crystal is 5.43 angstrom. So this is 50 angstrom. So we are talking about 10, 11 atom layers. And the technology can handle it right now. Can change it, can manipulate it so that we can switch on and off those transistors. And all this technology is available via Imec. Yeah, we do tape outs. You can see from 2005. There is a trend of increasing. The light blue is the MPW that we do for the universities, institutions, for the startups, companies, and the dark blue are the full wafer masks, which goes to production. So you can see there is a hit rate, of course. Not every chip that goes to MPW would ended up with production, but hit rate, I would say, I'm not doing anything. I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the next one is about this. The wafer size is important. We're all talking about 8-inch, 6-inch, 12-inch. This is a 12-inch wafer. And I mean, for 8-inch is kind of, at the moment, is an old style. Only 0.18 micron is done in 8-inch. 0.13 and beyond are all in 12-inch. And I'm talking about the CMOS. For silicium, germanium, silicium carbide, gallium arsenide, all these different technologies, of course, would do still 6-inch or 8-inch, even 4-inch. But when we are talking about mainstream or advanced CMOS, it is 12-inch, and you can see the trend. And now we are talking about FinFET. FinFET, okay, you know all this lateral structure of a transistor, CMOS. You have this N+, you have your channel and gate, metal oxide. Between the metal and the silicon, there is this glass, silicium dioxide, and your other terminal, N+. So it is lateral. Basically, electrons goes like this. But and when you start shrinking down the geometry, each year you have to find another way because you're on the bottom of the technology. Then the idea is to go for 3D. Okay, why don't we go vertical? So now and then FinFET technology was born, where you have the fins like shark, So you have vertical gates and channels, and your gate is actually wrapped around it. So then it will give you more density, more power efficiency, less area, and yeah. And all those mobile phones that you're using at the moment has FinFET processors in it. Starting from 16 nanometer, it's all FinFET. 16, 12, 7, 5, 3, all FinFET. Yeah, again, this is another view of the complete flow. phase one is design. Yeah, Anton from Cadence mentioned in detail about this. Spec, ASIC spec, then ASIC design, front end, back end, then manufacturing, package assembly, test development, qualification, mass production. Again, the message I would like to give, I mean, we need good engineering power to manage this whole from flow from the beginning till handover from engineering team to the production team. Okay, a couple of words on our design services. So yes, I've been talking about mostly on manufacturing, but we have a internal design team of 60 people, 60. Half of them are analog designers, half of them are digital designers. We don't want to expand it to 500. Okay, there is some increase, but what we would like to do, and we are doing, to mobilize the European design ecosystem around Imec. So we would like to use our partners. When we have an opportunity, when we have a customer, it's not always we can address all the type of different designs, all the type of different applications. Instead, to give diversity to us, we would like to work with design houses like in Serbia or in any other part of the world, so that we have kind of a virtual design house, which we can address more and more different type of engagements. Yeah, this is just showing two different type of engagements. One is RTL in, the other is spec in. RTL in means that the customer has the architecture and RTL verified. The verification is done and there is this RTL and they give us the RTL. We do the synthesis, we do the DFT, we do the backend, generate the GDS and send it to the manufacturing. This is the first model. The second model is spec in, where the customer comes to us asking that I want, in an A4 paper, just a couple of words, I want a chip doing this. Then we do the architecture, we do the IP integration, we do the RTL verification, and the rest. So basically, there are two types of engagements. Yeah, and we are working with partners, as I said, and these are the official partners, but beyond those names, we are also working with other partners. I think I'm getting close to the end. Yeah. Yeah, and also the IP is one of the key concepts that you need to keep in mind. So you cannot design everything from scratch. I'm giving the same example, Bluetooth. Okay, you need a Bluetooth function in your chip. If you want to design it from scratch for a given technology node, let's say 28 nanometer, it would take, I don't know, minimum 1 year just to develop this functionality. Instead, there are IPs available from different vendors. So you just get the IP and it is silicon proven, it is silicon proven, and the matter is just you integrate it and you put it in your RTL and you need some good verification design team to verify it's connected okay, the functionality is okay, etc. Then you're done. So the IP is also one crucial portion of our day-to-day jobs. Yeah, basically the final words. Yeah, as Imec and Imec iSealing, we would like to be the single point of contact with the customer, and we handle the rest for them and for universities as well. Having the knowledge and expertise on this whole flow and having a very good relationship with the ecosystem, IP vendors, EDA vendors like Cadence. Cadence is one of the key partners, and we use Cadence Flow in our design team. And yeah, and as I said, just to repeat, we are looking for good, talented hardware engineers, chip engineers. Well, I think that's end of my presentation. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, just shoot it.
The example that you brought, how far is it from being ready for use, if it were functional?
Could you repeat the
What step of production is this wafer that you have brought as well?
Okay, good question. I mean, this is half the way. I mean, this is just half the way. So yes, it is produced, but now what needs to be done, diced, then it needs to be, first, if wafer test is needed, we do probe the wafer on the bare die. So we call this EWS, electronic wafer sorting. So we just mark the good dies and the bad dies. So bad dies will be scrapped. The good dies will be picked up, put in a package. And there is also some yield, could be a yield issue during the assembly. So the packaged part is also going to final test. And then if everything goes well, you can ship it to your customer. But to do that, package needs to be developed. Test program needs to be developed for both wafer testing and the package testing. And all the test equipment, hardware needs to be developed and designed. Any other questions?
Again, for this wafer, does it have any test structures?
Yeah, this have. I mean, this has DFT for digital, and for the analog, there are also structures for testing. Yeah.
I have one question. How often chiplets technology is it used? So is it very common in most projects, or is it very rare?
It is a very new technology. I would say a couple of years. At the moment, there is, I mean, there is very little cases where that chiplet for certain functions are verified and can be used. So it's like, again, as I said, it's like a Lego, but at the moment, the usable parts are just very, very minor. But all the big guys are working to make this portfolio wider and wider. But at the moment, it is not a mature technology. It is the technology for tomorrow.
Experiments with the chiplets.
Yeah.
Specifically for producing GPUs and some other stuff.
Yeah. It's all experiment kind of, but I mean, this is the way it will go, and everyone in the industry believes that this will be the next step.
What are parts of the wafer which are not functional?
We just scrap them.
So you don't recycle or something like that?
Wow. Okay. I don't know. I don't think so. It's sand, man. It's beach. It's sand. So. But well, they are basically scrapped. And you don't just I know they scrap it because they don't want someone as a competitor to get it, because okay, with the high-end technologies, you cannot do back engineering. But let's say if it is an analog chip, you can put it under electron microscope and you can just derive the circuit by just looking at it. Good question. Yep. Yeah.
Another question about chiplet design. So what is the grand idea behind chiplets? Like, from what I understand, it's to have one main control die and then a bunch of processing chiplets that would need to each have their own control dies. But are there any other potential uses for this technology?
Yeah. Well, a very good question. Okay, what was the motivation to go to chiplet, right? Why don't we just put everything in a die and make it work? Exactly. I mean, when you put more and more functions, you're increasing your die size, and it is not good. Increasing the die size, then the economics of the commercial dynamic would change, so the yield would be an issue, and also some company is expert on one thing, the other is expert in another thing. So it's always good to get those expertise in a diverse way, and chiplets would give that opportunity. Any more questions? Yep. This is 22 nanometer. This is not one of the FinFET fancy ones, but yeah, it's still okay. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
What will be the future of transistors when you said their companies down to 1 nanometer transistor, and you also mentioned that the space between two silicon atoms is 5 angstroms.
Yeah.
So that's essentially 2 silicon atoms.
Yeah.
1 nanometer.
Yeah.
What will be the future, considering we probably cannot go lower?
Yeah, I mean, now it's scaling down in that mindset is gonna stop, of course, but integration is coming. Now, we managed to do the transistor in a vertical way, yes, but now the next step, they are talking about fork type of transistor, where you put transistors on top of each other. The idea is to have the maximum number of transistors at a given area. So now you cannot shrink more, okay, yes, but you can put them on top of each other. Will there be an end to this? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, still, I mean, we are safe for the next 20 years, don't worry.
I wanted to ask about troubles turning like logical designs into like actual circuits. As in, if I have a circuit with a lot of control lines, how would that interfere with like space allocation on the chip?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, it's a very wide question, but yeah. First of all these EDA tools has those, you know.
Do they have like optimizations built in?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to tell. And even going to the FinFET technologies and putting these, you know, billions of transistors in just 1 centimeter square, it's hectic. The channeling, all the high-speed signals. So the tools are handling that, but of course you're wasting your time with your area with routing, and it's kind of inevitable. But EDA tools really very good in doing those kind of precautions. That's why they are a bit expensive. Oh, okay. All right, good. Well, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. So my name is Dan. I'm coming from Meta Reality Labs. I'm the SSD design manager in Reality Labs in Meta in United States. Due to the respect for our guests from outside, I'm going to do this presentation in English. It's going to be a little bit different versus the previous talks that you guys heard, but it's kind of leaning towards the same subject. Why going in silicon career? What's the future of the silicon development? What's the future of being a hardware engineer or being a software engineer as well? You know, my belief is that boundary is slowly going away. So being software or hardware engineer is not really something that will be very easy to distinguish in the future. And I wanted to kind of walk you a little bit through a small journey of what we do in Meta, what we believe the future of technology would be, and where the silicon as itself will contribute to it, and how it would be basically the key driver of these new technologies. So I'm going to talk about the metaverse. A lot of you heard about that buzzword. It's quite complicated. A lot of people actually don't get it. What the heck is that? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about the AR, which is the augmented reality, the XR, which actually folds on, that actually grabs the mixed reality and virtual reality, and how the silicon actually folds into that story. By metaverse itself, what we think it is, it's actually the next evolution in the social technologies and the way how the people connect to each other and communicate with them. And it's also something that we see as a successor of the mobile internet. We all got used to desktop computers, then we suddenly figured out the laptops, then we figured out the tablets, then we figured out the smartphones. We think it's time to figure out the next chapter of it, and that's where we think the metaverse will actually kick in. There is a definition of that we have written. It's a set of digital spaces, including immersive 3D experiences that all interconnect the people. I'm not gonna read through it, that's boring part. I'm just gonna let you see like one video. How do we see it? Just one example.
Did you know the rings are made up of billions of icy particles? Really?
All right, perfect.
Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, everyone. Boz, is that you? Of course it's me.
Like a shot.
Some call it skill.
Keep talking. Yo. You're here! Hey. Let's jump in. Hi.
Hey.
So what do we think?
I think it's ready.
Imagine you could also drop an exclusive product in the metaverse.
Let's go. Keep it going.
Yeah. So this is an idea, okay? How we see it. Some of this is already reality, okay, in our research lab. Some of it is still just an idea. And there's a lot of work basically to be done in order to get there. But just to, in terms of a definition, to walk you a little bit through it when it comes to the language. What we see in here is the example of the physical world. That's what we see around us. We belong to it. It's been made of things, follows the laws of physics. You know, everybody very familiar with that. This is virtual reality. Objects are totally synthesized in it. They can be fake, it can be imaginable. We can be part of the virtual reality, but only through our headsets that actually place us over there as some type of a virtual object or virtual characters. Somewhere in between is the augmented reality. So this is something that is, we think, is the next big thing that will happen, which is basically combining the virtual reality and the physical world, where we are overlaying the textures of content or scenes or digital information over the regular physical world in a way that it's not going to interfere with the way how we communicate with the technology, so that it's very immersive, how we call it, that it doesn't really kind of, it just nicely blends with the way how we live. Today it's totally normal to see people walking on the streets, like, you know, looking at their smartphones and everything else. And it somehow became normal. Tomorrow, it's going to look less weird, we hope, and it's going to go a little bit different. From our side, Meta is a large company, and we have a large research teams as well. But we believe that the concept of the metaverse is something which is not owned by one company. This will be requiring the whole community in the industry and a lot of other companies to be part of it, so that they can develop the parts of it, be it software, be it hardware, be it services, be it data centers. So we are not alone in this space. There are some basic principles that need to be set from the very beginning in here, and Meta probably knows the best out of the old companies what that means, because the metaverse will be very sensitive from the point of privacy, from the point of security, from the point of IP. So there are some basics that need to be established at the very early stages so that we don't make those mistakes again. And what we think our role there is to help accelerate the tool development required for it, to help accelerate the ecosystems, to help accelerate the standards, and give some type of an example to the other companies, what do we think, in which direction they should go. From our side, we have Quest 2. I don't know how many of you actually had the kind of opportunity to play with this device. This is a VR consuming device for the virtual reality. A little bit of numbers in here. I'm not going to bother you much with that. We have more than 1 billion spent on the content, on the apps that are running on it. It used to be the #1 app last Christmas in the App Store. 1 in 3 titles in here was making the revenue in the millions, and there are like 32 titles that made more than 10 million in the revenue. Is this kind of a killer device? Nope. Is this something that is changing the way how the industry and people will react to virtual reality? No, but it's a big step. I personally think it's a really good hardware and a good piece of equipment if you are into the VR gaming and if you are really passionate about the VR itself. Of course, the market is not like a smartphone market, so we are still happy with the numbers that we're seeing based on the overall usage. The next thing that we actually kicked out is we released the Quest Pro. It was a little bit more than a month ago. This is a high-end device targeted only for the professional gamers and for the work. When it comes to work, we're talking about the training in the VR, like Boeing, NASA, General Electric, Toyota, those folks, or work when it comes to people working together. This is just another angle. It's a slimmer, lighter, better ergonomics. It's the first device that has a pass-through video, so it can actually provide the MR experiences, which is the mixed reality. You can have first glimpses of augmented reality in it, faking it a little bit by using the mixed reality. So you can see some kind of first use cases showing up in this device. Why we think that this is needed and why we think that using it for work matters, because we think that kind of immersive presence or like remote connection with the people is more important than ever. And it started basically rolling out throughout the COVID and pandemic, where people started spending way more time at home and started working remotely. My personal experience in Meta was like, so just one day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we got an email. You need to leave the office by 5 o'clock and you're working from home from tomorrow. That tomorrow, and you're probably gonna get back in office next week. That next week happened 2.5 years later. So meanwhile, we figured out a way how to work remotely, and we figured out the culture, but we were missing a little bit on the tech, you know, and how to kind of enable that. This is where the VR headsets came into game, and this is where work ended up as a kind of priority for us, where we actually mostly focused on developing the apps and devices for the work-related use cases. Before 2020, the focus of the company is more looking for the skills. After 2020, what we're seeing as a trend is companies are way more focused on kind of providing a work-life balance or kind of a working models that work better for their employees, so the employees choose their work style and have way more autonomy and freedom to do that. Here is an example where we talk about spending some experiences together. So we talk a little bit about the work. These are 2 examples that are recent ones. I'm not a big fan of those ones, but you know, there are people that are crazy about this. Watching NBA game together, for example, or watching a Beijing the Olympics together in the VR. So you can connect with your friends that also have like the VR device, let's say in this case Quest 2, and you can watch those games together. So this is enabled even today. The presence itself. Okay, we work, we have experience, we have fun, but in some cases I just want to kind of talk to you. I want to talk with my friends that are remote. I want to log in from Silicon Valley, where I live, to my friends that still live in Serbia. There are 2 apps that we have. One which is being already deployed, which is called Horizon Worlds. And the example you can see on bottom left, we connect in the VR. We actually have those cartoon-like avatars. It's a little bit funky, but it's fun. Still, people are saying it's still not real. It kind of still looks like, hey, this looks like we are in a game. Well, the upper one is a vision. How do we look that it's going to look like in the next iteration using the Horizon Worlds and using the full body avatar codecs, which is the example at the top. So this is near future. I'm going to say large, but it's kind of far away. We're close to it. But this is how we see the use cases emerging into Horizon Worlds in this way. When it comes to professional work, we don't just connect to each other, but we need to have a support from the OSs, application layers, use cases where I need my email to be open, my PowerPoints to be open. This is where all the family of Facebook tools are actually involved, included into the VR, and we partnered with Microsoft. This is being announced last month. We're going to work together with them to include the full Office 365 and Microsoft Teams within the workplace, within the Verizon, within the home, and that's going to be part of the next after releases that we're going to have for our VR headsets. Now, we talked a little bit about VR. We talked about the Quest Pro use cases. We also have another aisle of technology that we are pushing through, and this is called the glasses. Now, the glasses have like smart glasses versions, they have augmented reality glasses and so on. They're evolving over the time. Smart glasses itself, we released one, it's a symbolic feature set, I would call it like that, but it's cool stuff. It's called Ray-Ban Stories. We actually partnered with Luxottica, which is the Italian company that owns the Ray-Ban brand. And we made first Ray-Ban Stories out on the market. They have a pair of cameras. You can do the live stream and connect with your friends, share your videos, listen to the music. There's a cartilage conduction speakers on them. We have a couple of microphones on them as well. There's one touchpad. In the next release that is going to come very soon, we're going to have phone calls enabled on it, so it's not just listening to the music. So the feature set is going to just kind of grow on them, and then I'm going to become smarter and smarter and smarter until they become the AR glasses. So this is basically a list of the features that I was just explaining to you. So there are 3 use cases in the AR that I just kind of want to get your attention a little bit about. The first two cases are at the upper one and the middle one. Here you can see where in AR space, we are overlaying the textures over the regular physical space, and we are interacting with those objects. So the objects are created in the AR as the overlay, and we can interact with them. In the last case, you can also see persons being overlaid in the AR space as well. So this is an additional layer of a complexity, because we need to see the recording of those persons before we see replay on another side. While the objects that we create don't require recording, they're actually fully synthesized. So there is a kind of additional layer of complexity in the third use case. That's also something that is important. All of this back technology story requires a lot of chips, okay? A lot of hardware, and the complexity is actually spanning over the whole stack. Everything from like data centers, from cloud services, from devices that we're gonna use in order to enable this, from designing batteries that can fit in a very small housing that are very packed with the energy, new chemicals required for it, new materials for building the devices that can conduct the thermal easily, and in the end, new silicon. And we are positioned at this moment basically to drive that technology breakthrough through, and I'll show you later, and solve these multiple challenges. Each and every needs to be solved. At least half of them are boiling down to chips and to silicon. Be it more aggressive nodes, be it more power, less power, more performance, or whatever it is, but it boils down to a silicon. In order to explain you why is this complicated, a lot of people were telling me in the past, like, I don't get it, man. We used one example of using the virtual vase. So the virtual vase is a synthesized object. I put my glasses on my head that are AR glasses. They look like any other glasses that you wear, a lot of people in here. And we actually project the vase on the glass that our eye is looking at. If I put the vase on a table, my glasses need to understand first that this is a table, that it can hold the vase on it. Next one, it needs to understand where is the surface of the table where that vase needs to be positioned in space. It also needs to understand where the light source is coming from in order to render the shading of the vase. It also needs to understand how to project the shade on the table. But there is also one very complicated case, like, well, if I move my head left, on my display, the waves needs to go left. If I move it down, it needs to go up. So the glasses need to understand where's my head located, where I'm looking at as well. So there are a lot of things and a lot of compute that needs to happen in order to understand all these details. You need to run them real time, and you need to run them in hardware. Most of the software is too slow for it. So those are like some of the complexities of why the AR is so complicated and what type of problems we're trying to solve. It boils down to power, and why I'll explain a little bit later, but just to kind of get back to basics to walk you through this one. Power is defined as number of operations per second multiplied by the energy required for that given operation. Let's take, for example, the ways we were talking about. There is a rendering and there is a frame. Each time you need to render one frame of that ways. We call it the scene because it doesn't really cover the 2D space. It's just a chunk of that space. That's the operation that we need to do. For every operation, we need to spend some energy that is burned in our hardware or software, or our device, basically. And we have some requirements, how many frames of those we need. Well, that depends on how fast I move my head up and down. And there is a power budget that we have, which is given by the battery that we have, and which is also given by the thermal of the chip that we are designing. So Oscar was talking about these chips that we are doing in FinFET, going all the way to 5 nanometers. They have their limitations of how much power they actually use and what's the thermal that they emit. This is basically a constraint if you look at the power. Operations per second are user value. I will dictate by how fast I move my head, how many frames per second we need. But the energy per operation is something which is the optimization value. This is something where we as an industry and as the engineering community across the world, we need to spend more time on trying the ways how to basically spend less energy per one operation and make our devices more efficient when it comes to that and the designs that we are using for that. We did a little bit of a breakdown. I mean, I don't know how much this is boring for you, this part, and where are you guys like with gaining those, but let me put it this way. In order for you to understand where is the energy going in our devices and in our silicon, we run some use cases on the typical application SoCs that mostly run in like a smartphones or similar type of devices. And we broke them down per categories and then kind of grouped them in 4. Number 1 is off-chip data transfers. If I'm actually uploading something to cloud, downloading something for cloud, that's basically where my laptop is going back and forth with data. When we're talking about chips, going off chip means I'm taking the data from the camera, I'm sending the data to DRAM, I'm sending the data to Wi-Fi modem, or I'm exchanging the data between the chips. This is basically, I'm leaving the chip boundary. That takes a lot of energy. So your battery is gonna drain very fast if your application is very high-speed IO transfer intensive. The second group that we identified is the high compute. Most of the SoCs or the chips that we're building today, the application ones, have high performance CPUs from ARM, A5, A7 series. Those are very fast CPUs. They are capable of running very complicated software algorithms with high performance, but they spend a lot of energy as well. So this is the second group that we identified as like the key energy suckers, if we call it like that, in our silicon. Third one is the wide operate compute and the on-chip data transfers, basically transferring to the memory which sits within our chip or on-chip RAM or SRAMs, some of the IO cache operations and similar. And the least energy efficient, the least energy thirsty piece is the pixel processing and machine learning blocks. They spend the least amount of the energy. I'll get back later on to you. This is basically putting us at the point we need to go from right and push those use cases more to left. Figure out how these use cases can work without high off-chip data transfers, without a need to every once in a while transfer large amount of data. And there are ways how to do that, either through the architecture, either through the building a different design and similar. But I'll show you the example of that. We talked a little bit about the power challenge. We talked about the ways. There are more challenges with AR, not just that. But those are more coming from a little bit different angle. the AR glasses need to be socially acceptable. They need to look like any other glasses. Well, there's not a lot of room in those glasses. They are very thin. Those frames don't have cavities like the phones could. So we are limited with the space. They need to be lightweight. They cannot be heavy. You need to wear them on your head. They need to be all-day wearable also from the use case perspective. It means that they need to have the all-day battery usage like the smartphones. We're not going to charge them every once in a while. Again, a problem with the space in the room that we have. And they don't heat up. It's a device that you wear on your head next to your skin. It's a very strict requirement. So you need to be careful about that one as well. Solving all of them is very complicated. Solving them at once, it's even more complicated. But that's why it's fun. Let me tell you one of the aspects of the multimodality problem that we have due to the small factor. These glasses are actually packed with a visual technology. They have multiple cameras, depth cameras, RGB cameras, cameras that are actually recording your eyes as well. Each of these cameras requires camera sensors that need to be placed in those glasses. They need the opening in order to be able to see the view around them. So that's one thing that gets packed in. We have speakers. Those are cartilage conduction speakers or open ear headphones. Some people call them like that. They are actually packed as well in the back of the handles. We have multiple microphones sprinkled all around that are enabling the spatial audio. We also have a bunch of sensors on them added. Those are the sensors that are used for pressure, for accelerometers, for like compass, the magnetic field sensors. They're helping understand the glasses, where they are in the space and how fast they're moving. So this is on the fusion technology of sensor visual and audio. When it comes to the vision itself, we rely on computer vision for multiple reasons, and that's why we need so many of those cameras. We use them for semantic segmentation. I don't know how many of you guys are actually having computer vision here on the courses. Depth estimation, those are the infrared cameras that are used to estimate the depth of the object so that they can do and understand how far and how distant the objects from us are. This is used for the object recognition. Hey, is this a table? Can we put the vase there? Yes, computer vision will tell us that. It's used for eye tracking. We use that for something called foveation rendering. We are having an algorithm that will actually figure out where is our eye looking, and then small area around that will have a very high resolution with a very immersive details and the color depth. While everything else will blur out the further you are from the place where your eyes is looking at. It's called foveation rendering. That's basically how the human eye works. Well, that helps lowering down the resolution. It helps lowering down the number of pixels we need to process, compute, power, and lower performance requirements. The last two are optical flow estimation and OCR, the character recognition. Basically, that exists even today in the smartphones. You go out of the garage, it recognizes your license plates. Well, that's the OCR that kicks in. So we do that as well. Let's go back to the vision and the imaging. The challenge that we have with cameras, it has very small aperture. Aperture is basically the opening in the housing of the glasses. When the opening is very small, there's not a lot of light that comes in. So the folks that are working on sensors in here know that it actually has two problems. One, there's more noise coming, and there is less signal coming in because there's not enough light. This actually creates a problem that the quality of image becomes deteriorated. Going from VR to AR, things become even more complicated because the VR has this larger kind of headsets and more room in it and a higher opening. AR is even smaller. So we call the AI to rescue and a computer vision. And you can see the algorithm, it's not really visible in here, but yeah, we just take the smaller sensor, we take the smaller resolution, we take the smaller signal, less light, we get a little bit of a crappy image, if we can put it that way, but then we call computer vision and AI on our side. In this case, it's the AI. We build a model for the denoising, we run the algorithm, and we just fix the picture. So it becomes way better with a way higher quality than it used to be before. We also do, so Computer vision, I gave an example. It helps us on power. We have a smaller resolution, smaller pixel size, less power is actually spent on processing the image by using the AI. On the audio side, we use the trick of codecs. Codecs are actually used in multiple places, and they are actually allowing us, instead of like transferring the full sample rate of the audio, to just transfer like kind of a tiny fraction of the data, accompanied with the codec which is being installed on your device. That might be a contact person from your contact list. And then we reconstruct that audio through the algorithms that we run in our hardware. So here is an example. If we say, hey, Meta, how's the weather in Serbia? What our device will do, there is one enhancement block that will actually filter that audio, make it a little bit better through the hardware itself. It will recognize the wake word. It's very important recognizing it because it now turns on the chip and the device. Our devices are in a very, very deep power state. It means most of it is turned off, so it doesn't waste the battery. This tiny, tiny piece of it is actually on listening for the wake word, more or less. In this case, our wake word is, hey, Meta. Then it runs the algorithm that recognizes the speech. So out of this audio that we have, there's some speech happening there, and it extracts that speech from the noise outside of. Then it does the natural language understanding. Hey, which language this is, what actually this means. And then it will generate, basically understand out of it what to do and perform a particular action. But it does the other way around as well. Out of that, it can actually do the generation of the natural language for the given text. And it can actually transfer that text into a speech using the codec of a particular person. So if we're transferring the audio from one device to another, which might be on another side of the world, basically we will just say, hey, here is the contact list. Here is Hagai, he's my contact. I will have his codec in my device, phone or glasses or whatever. If we are talking to each other, we are basically exchanging the fraction of that data that can be reconstructed on both sides using the codecs on our devices. When we beef up this game even more than just audio, we are coming basically to video. Well, there is the same concept. We use the codecs, we use the fraction of the data being transferred over the chip boundaries and wireless data centers, different side of the world, and then we reconstruct that video on another side. And who do we care about the most? People. I told you in that example at the very beginning, AR has 3 use cases. The third one is actually having the people in the AR. This problem is solving not just lowering down the energy on the transfer of the amount of the data, but it's solving another big puzzle in the VR and augmented reality, which is like, I want to see the person in front of me, which is actually now in the United States, but that person is on the beach. There are no cameras around them that are recording them 360. And I want to see the person in front of me and move around it and do whatever I want. Well, that's possible. And Yasser, he is actually our director from Pittsburgh. He ran the Avatar Codex team. It's still in the research phase. It's not productized yet, but I just want to kind of play for you let's hear Yasser, what he has to say.
Hi there. My name is Yasser, and I direct the Facebook Reality Research Lab in Pittsburgh. Well, that's not completely true. What you're seeing is actually a rendering of my pre-recorded codec avatar. Over the past couple of years, we've made quite a bit of progress with codec avatars. My avatar can now look left, look right, look up, look down, make facial expressions, ooh, there, and natural hand gestures like snapping your fingers, pointing, counting, cracking your knuckles, and also challenging body poses that involve self-contact. The goal of our work is to enable people to interact in virtual reality just as naturally as they would in real life. Now, this is early research, so there's still some ways from getting this to consumers. But we're excited about a future where people can securely create lifelike avatars from a few snaps of their phone and securely and safely interact with one another through VR headsets and ultimately through AR glasses as well.
So, for some people that really understand how this works, it looks a little bit scary, right? It's kind of like, Jesus, this could be, somebody faking somebody talking something. Well, we go to that first principle that I've kind of mentioned in maybe second or third slide. We need to set some basic rules for this technology so that it doesn't get abused and can be safe for users to use it and secure. Both safety and security are important. Ignoring it wouldn't help. This is already invented. Meta is just one of them. There will be other companies that soon will come out with the same type of a product. It's time to kind of figure out, hey, how do we make sure that all of this is basically safe for all users and secure for usage? So that's one of the principles that we need to always have in mind and never forget about it. But like how far we went with this is one example. On another side, it really allows this immersive interaction with the people that you want to talk with for the spaces. Yasser, in this case, was maybe sitting in a chair and talking. Yasser was actually maybe just typing a message. I show you how we do the text to speech, basically reconstruction and rendering of the speech. This is how we do the rendering of the full body avatars. So it's possible to get something like that in Reality Labs internally for now, soon in a devices and a technology that will be accessible by masses. We talk about all of this spec stuff, what we do, a lot of features, a lot of stuff. And the main problem, we were joking about this, Houston, we have a problem. We run all of that, we design our chips, we run power budgets, and we just say like, oh man, we're like 3 times off our budget. We are spending 3 times more than we can. This device won't work. Well, we don't give up, we just move on. So we are not at 3 times, but now. Where we spend most of the energy in our devices, what we looked at, not the general one that I showed you the slide, but the one that we have. We actually broke it into very critical use cases that we have, and they all boil down to on-chip or off-chip data transfers. So either sending or reading or writing the data into the external memory or DRAM, or writing or reading the data from internal memory or on-chip RAM. There are these 4 use cases. I'm not going to bug you much with that. Audio, hand tracking. We have actually the ways how we track the hands. It's very important for us. Why? Because the hands are interacting with the object in the airspace. So it's very important for us to understand what are our hands doing, that our glasses or device that is actually wearing understands that. Audio, you know what it is. SLAM, I don't know how many of you know the simultaneous localization and mapping. That's the algorithm which is used in autonomous driving vehicles as well. It's an algorithm basically which understands where are you located in the space and understands space around you and understands how you move to that space. In autonomous driving, hey, I need to push the brake, I need to turn, I need to do this, I need to do that. Basically, the decision-making process is relying on the SLAM algorithm. And then the last one is depth. Depth is actually the infrared cameras that are recording space around you. SLAM is actually relying on the depth as on the main protocol as well, up to some level. But the key point, most of the energy gets spent on writing or reading into the memories. So Oscar was saying about this was the interesting part. Why we don't just look at like what the problem is? Well, we looked at it. It's a basic problem in the designing of the silicon. DRAM, it's cheap to add more. It's really cheap to add capacity of it. But the problem is it has a high energy. So every access to DRAM roughly is 80 picojoules per byte, which is like 40 times more than accessing on-chip RAM. So on-chip RAM is way more energy efficient. On the other side, the DRAM memory has a limited bandwidth. It's not as fast as the on-chip RAM, hundreds of gigabytes versus tens of terabytes. So it's slow as well. Then we go on another side. Why then we don't just increase the on-chip RAM as much as we need it? Because keep in mind, AR technology is very thirsty when it comes to memory. We need it as much as we can and at as lowest power as possible per access. Well, there is a problem with the SRAM as well. If you start adding it unlimitedly, your die size area starts growing, your yield starts becoming a problem. The larger the die is, the more chips are becoming defective. And then there is one more problem with the large SRAM or the on-chip RAM. There is a static leakage which exists in those memories, which you have to pay as a price, use it or lose it type of approach. As long as the battery is powered on, that leakage exists, irrespective if you're writing or reading it to that memory. The larger the memory, the larger the leakage. It's actually going exponentially almost. So it's not really, sounds like an easy solution, but it's not. And then we come to 3D stacking. You guys asked about chiplets. We love them. We had logic, memory, logic, memory. So chips are not growing anymore horizontally as a single die. No, we break them into chiplets and we just stack them on 3D one on top of each other. It has several advantages. One, SRAM basically can be virtually unlimited for us from the application space point of view, but we are not paying a penalty of the static leakage on them. If we don't need that SRAM section, we power off that chiplet, there's no leakage anymore. On another side, if we have an accelerator that is basically a hardware block which does some software processing, which resides in the chiplet that is further on, and we don't use it, we turn off the whole chiplet so we can save more on power. And third one, when you have a 3D stacked device, it actually grows vertically, but it doesn't grow so much horizontally. We like that as well because of the cavities in our devices. We would rather have a cube of silicon rather than a flat surface, which is a large one. So it has that kind of a side effect as well, which is only people that build wearable devices care about. And then the next thing is, we talked about power, we talked about vision, we talked about audio, we talked about codecs, but we didn't talk about input of the tactile devices in our hands. This is also one of the areas where there are tons of challenges popping up. People are familiar with haptic gloves. Those are the gloves that you put on. There are also like haptic suits that you can put on and stuff like that. Yes, they're really good. They have a really good signal, high resolution. The problem is they're bulky. People are not gonna wear that. That's not immersive, basically. That's like I put it on myself in home playing the game, and after that I'm taking it off and going outside. We're looking for something which is very less bulky and very more immersive, something that blends easily with the usage. And there are like two of them. There is an electronic ring. That's not the first smart ring actually in the market. People were building it. We think that we can do more with it. And there is the wristband, but both of them, especially the wristband, is actually relying on the EMG, electromyography. Those are, I'm not sure if you guys are, know what it is. On the left-hand side, this is basically a device which can record the signal of the nerves and the impulses that are going over the nerves, record that information, run the AI algorithms on it with a little bit of a practice and calibration, build a type of a codec for your arm, record the data, and then reconstruct based on that signal, what is your brain telling to your hand? So we can basically steal the information from here to understand what is happening with your hand and then reconstruct that. Here is the example. So the left side is the real hand of the user. The right hand side is actually their hand in the AR space or the VR space. This is the research, it's not in our production, but more or less that's how it works. They were crazy ideas, you know, well, this is gonna go to Matrix. We're gonna have a plugin here that will understand the whole body and everything else. Too early. We're probably a century away from it, or at least a couple of decades. But this is an idea, you know, why it's important. If I'm interacting with the objects in the AR space, I don't want cameras to record my hand and understand what I'm doing, because cameras on the glasses, I can do it like this. What are we gonna do now? I can be in my pocket as well. Well, the EMG doesn't have that problem. It can record it anywhere. There are some other side effects of this research as well, which is going now in the medical and bioengineering as well, that can help even the people that are impaired or having some problems with their limbs or similar, where we can basically reuse this research in order to fuel it, not just in consumer electronics, but more into kind of a biotech and the energy and the engineering that comes for devices that are built in that area. Here is the example of how this works in the AR. So, you know, it's a little bit bulky, but that's why we need that tactile kind of understanding of what are we doing with our hands there. I was playing with this. It's weird when you're playing it because there's no chest in front of you. You're kind of touching the space and moving your hands through the space. But there is some research to add the weight and some other kind of like sensations as well. Why is this interested, you know, why the AR and augmented reality is interesting for the GSA and for you, particularly the audience in here? I'm listing in here what we need as a kind of next steps in the industry, and I'm just kind of trying to list out like the main one. We need 100x improvement on the performance and power in our silicons. This is going in the direction of massively using machine learning, computer vision, and custom graphics engines. We need smaller, more versatile, and smarter sensors. Sensors today, like camera sensors, IMU sensors, they're quite dumb. No offense to people that are working on them, but they're very focused on acquiring the pixels. They don't do any kind of processing on these pixels before they send them downstream to a chip that will use them. If the chip downstream needs only 50 pixels, every 5th pixel, sensor doesn't know that. It will send all of it. I'll send you 5 megabytes and you use 100 kilobytes that you need, throw away the rest. Well, I don't want you to send me those 5 megabytes because I'm going to waste the energy on it. Send me only the one that I need. Well, sensors don't have that. We need a little bit more of kind of that smartness in them. And they need to be smaller. They're bulky as of now. They need to spend less energy. We need a better wireless. Everybody's asking for it every time. We need a higher bandwidth, the lower latency, lower power. In our case, it's lower latency and lower power with it. The current one is just spending too much energy. You know, our architects, whenever we say we're gonna Wi-Fi, they're just like, oh my God, no, please don't turn it on. And the moment we turn it on, the battery is gone. We need the new displays. I didn't intentionally talk about displays in here. That's a technology which is on the edge, what could be disclosed or not yet at this point. But there is a kind of a material around that for the folks that are doing optics or something like that. You know, I can talk to you maybe after this hour. But we need a better displays, a better waveguides. Waveguides is actually technology used for building the displays that are projecting transparent glass. And we need better input systems like the EMG ones. You know, something which is way smaller, that spends less energy, lighter, more blends with the end users. And then what's your role in all of that? Well, you will need to kind of blend into it. You will need to understand like what's needed there. You will need to find your path in your career. If you're going in silicon, I would say 50-50 chance is that you're gonna land on some of those. The other 50% will probably land on something which is another big challenge that we have in industry, like fighting the lower nodes, going on the physics of the material, going to trying the more efficient silicon. What we are trying to solve in here is like trying to solve the use cases in a more efficient way, where we're rolling over the software algorithms into the accelerators in hardware, moving the IO chip transfers into internal transfers, lowering down the amount of data that we send because we have better algorithms to predict what is the data that we are going to receive through either machine learning or similar ones. You know, aggressively trimming off the amount of the information required for the exchange between the devices. On another side, this will help us on power, area, performance, but we are running in parallel with the other folks that are actually improving the silicon itself that will also help that and just kind of double it, even those savings, and speed up that kind of technology development to finding either new materials or finding another ways to build a higher density silicon through the multi-layer silicon and kind of getting there from that point of view. The people that will build this are probably around in here. So a lot of those folks that you heard the stories about their careers, they're already 15, 20, 25 years in it. Usually the smartest people and the new ideas are coming from the folks that are just entering that world. I wouldn't say like we got tired of the older ones. Yes, there is still tons of passion in it, but always, you know, my like personal experiences, the ideas will come from people with a fresh mind, with a kind of new pair of eyes there, with challenging the status quo on some things like, well, why is this in here? But that's because that's the place where it stands. But why it stands there? But that's where we put it, just don't worry about it. Well, the youngsters will start challenging some things that are kind of like why we put it there. And then we figure out, well, that's your problem that you're trying to solve for a year. Then 10 senior ones of us will look at it and kind of like, well, we didn't think about this. Well, that's why you guys will be the one that will probably drive that kind of wave of the technology. That I think the time is started like a couple years back, and it's just going to even grow more and more and more. There are more ASIC chips built today than ever before. People were saying, is the Moore law dead, basically, which is saying every node we go down, every year we double the performance of our silicon, and that's actually thanks to lowering down the node, and now we cannot lower the node anymore. Well, it's not about that, and it's not only about that. It matters, but it's not the prevailing factor. There are more and more software algorithms that get hardened into the hardware accelerators in order to get the better performance of it, or in order to get a lower power of it or a lower area. So there are more and more custom chips, ASIC chips built for the particular application for a particular device. That's why we have such a backlog of the chips coming from the TSMC and the other factories as well, because there are just more and more of folks just deciding to build the ASICs for themselves. And that's why I said at the very beginning, that boundary between the software and hardware in the coming years, at least my personal opinion, will be so blurry that it would be, well, are you a web developer, or you're an algorithm developer, or you're a neural network designer, or you're a hardware designer? Well, you will need to understand the trade-offs of all in order to make a call where are you going. Hey, on software side, where do you want to run this? I want to run it on a Xeon in the data center. I want to run it on my smartphone on general purpose CPU. Is it like A5 or A7 ARM? Or I want to, let's harden that and make accelerator out of it, and write an RTL, run it through the synthesis, run all the way to the fab and get it out of the silicon. These choices are made way more often today, way more brave by the people that are designing the silicon industry than it was before. And it just explodes. Hey, we need more designers, we need more verification engines, we need... So the only factor that is dictating the pace and speed of it is number of people able to spend time on it, which means number of engineers across the world, including you. So the more folks we get in, the more we will make a progress in that direction. And it's huge. It takes nations, it takes millions of people to be part of it. And I hope you will enjoy it. I have one more. Nope, this is the last one. I'm not going to bother you. I'm anyway 2 minutes over. Thanks, Jody, for organizing this. I would like to thank you. I'm really kind of impressed that you guys were really willing and kind of committed to it. Thanks to Professor Miana for hosting us here and kind of organizing all of this. And thanks to the ladies, Oliver and Christina, for kind of running the show and putting all the dots together. This is like executed perfectly.
Somebody have some questions?
If you don't feel comfortable in English, you can ask in Serbian as well.
What after glasses?
Sorry?
What after glasses?
What is after glasses?
What comes after glasses?
Like lenses
Well, we're probably 20 years delta between the glasses and the next thing. Lenses, not yet. The problem with the lenses is actually display technology. Believe it or not, everything else is solved. Only displays are the problem, but the problem is so large that we think that it's going to be probably 20 or 30 years more after the glasses are fully in deployment before we see the lenses basically that are sitting in your eye. It'll probably be closer to the EMG and induction on the nerves directly, on the eye nerves, rather than kind of seeing the lenses, if you ask me. Not really. Glasses need a local memory, so we will pack them mostly through the 3D stacking in our chiplets as on-chip RAM. So we want to run away from a DDR, the DRAM memory, which is the off-chip memory, quite cheap to be added, but quite expensive from the power point of view, and it has a lower performance than on-chip RAM. And we will move into a direction of kind of like putting the on-chip RAM in a stacked configuration in chiplet.
Yes, can the glasses be used for the meta apps, like the apps that have like Instagram, WhatsApp? So what more does it do?
So the current one in the market, the Ray-Ban Stories, they are actually compatible. The one with the phone call that we start will be compatible with regular phone apps, with WhatsApp, with Instagram, and with Facebook. The AR glasses in here, we are not there yet. This is still under research, but probably it's going to start somewhere from there, and it's just going to expand over the time. Yeah. Okay, looks like that was the last one. Okay, so don't run away. Okay, thank you.
Oh my God, yet another presentation. No, I didn't prepare a presentation for you. Just as closing remarks, you know, this is a defining moment. I don't know if you can see it, but the reason that I know it is because I'm coming here and, you know, I'm listening to the speakers and the panel and I'm looking at you. And I remember moments like meeting Miona, I don't know, 7 years ago, saying, okay, let's teach verification. You said, verification? It's not part of the program. We have to cross the committee, et cetera, et cetera. But today, there are, you know, people in this audience, where are they? That took verification courses here at the faculty that we helped arrange, et cetera. And when Olivera told me a few months back, you know, let's bring GSA to Serbia. GSA, the university program of MIT and these to Serbia for the first time in Europe. Yeah, and here we are today. So, you know, and being here, opening our verification lab this morning here in Нишу, listening to you, listening to people here from Serbia started their careers in semiconductors, I really think that the future is here already. You have a great opportunity to listen to all these people and to actually dream and choose your career. I'm a semiconductors freak. I'm really, really happy on this moment that I decided during my studies to go in this direction some years ago. And I really invite you all to take this great opportunity and to join us in this industry. Although I'm really connected to what you said, Dan, about the software, hardware kind of blending. But chip design and semiconductors industry includes a lot of software as well. So for all you software lovers, there is opportunity for that as well. And beyond everything else, I encourage you to dream, to think about what you want to do, to become engineers, to become great engineers, and to help develop this tech industry further. My name is Chagai Arbel. I'm the CEO for VTool. I'm from Israel originally, but I live here in Serbia. My passion beyond chip verification is to see these moments and these things happening. And thank you very much. Thank you, Jody, for coming here, and the speakers and the panelists and Miona. But most of all, you that came from universities all over Serbia to listen today. And good luck. Thanks.